I'm Stephanie Marrus. I'm Managing Director of Entrepreneurship at UCSF, University of California, San Francisco. And I'll tell you a little bit about me and the university for those of you who are not familiar with it. So I direct the Entrepreneurship Program at UCSF. I've been doing that for the last 8.5 years. And it's really been great to build it from nothing, because I'm an entrepreneur also, and to watch it blossom and create companies. So I've spent the last 30 years in the life science and healthcare industry, but academia is new for me, only this last job. So I've had a lot of private sector positions, and so I know how companies work from the inside. And these are typically what we call C-level management roles. So that means CEO, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Business Officer, I'm sure there's another one I missed, Vice President of Business Development. So senior management roles. And in addition to that, I've been a startup advisor and mentor for many, many ventures. One of the more fun things I do is that I teach not only at UCSF, but globally, and sometimes for the US State Department, sometimes for a company's Ministry of Science and Technology or Economic Development, and sometimes for other groups. And my degrees are an MBA from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, and a master's degree from Columbia University. So I am part of the Silicon Valley ecosystem. Before COVID, I was out almost every night during the week, going to one event or another, seeing what connections I could make, which is something we always do here. Networking is huge. What connections, what I could learn, what people were doing, and it was really fabulous. And hope to get that world back one of these days. I've worked with over 1,000 startups in both tech and life science, primarily now in life science. I did tech before that. And I've taught in the US at Berkeley, Stanford, and UCSF. And I also have taught globally in many places. These are them at the upper left. I actually think that is Istanbul, a State Department program in Istanbul. To the right of that is a university in Monterrey, Mexico. Then IAE is in Argentina. And that last picture is Skolkovo in Moscow. And those are the fun adventures. So for those of you who don't know UCSF, which is the University of California, San Francisco, we are the number 15 university ranked globally. We have a hospital system, and we have tremendous clinical care. We're number 7 ranked in the United States. We have the number 10 ranked medical school. We also have a dental school and many other schools, but especially proud of the medical school. There are 5 Nobel laureates in our faculty, and we're a top grantee from the National Institutes of Health. We do tremendous scientific research, and the NIH recognizes that by giving our PIs, primary, why am I not forgetting who they are, by giving our faculty grants for scientific research, and then top clinicians in all kinds of specialties. So this is our newest campus, and if any of you know UCSF, recently, you know that parking lot has now become buildings, so we keep on building. And it is, just, by the way, in downtown San Francisco. So the entrepreneurship program that I run has been focused on training and creating companies. And so through my training and the ecosystem that I've developed at UCSF, we've seen 40 companies get started, and they've raised over $700 million. Some small amounts of money because they're just getting started, some government grants, some venture capital. We have a really strong investor network in Silicon Valley. UCSF has such a great reputation as a quality institution and a place that good ideas come from, that investors are always interested in finding out what we're working on. And then we have something like 200 mentors and advisors who are very important elements of a startup. These, the guest lecturers, which I have drawn upon heavily, are people like CEOs of companies, serial entrepreneurs, investors, also experts of various sorts, attorneys. So a really great pool to draw from, and that's what I've done for this global class. So why take an entrepreneurship class? People have lots of reasons. Maybe you have an idea and you're not sure if it's something that could be a company, but you'd like to check that out. Or maybe you're already working on a startup. Maybe you're thinking about doing a startup. Maybe you're not doing anything with a startup, you don't have an idea, but you're just wondering, what's this Silicon Valley thing all about? And that's a perfectly fine motivation to take the class. It's a way to make connections, so you might be looking to do that. And there's people who have just interest in innovation in general. So perhaps you're in a corporation and you're wondering how to get more innovation there. Or perhaps you're with an innovation organization of some sort, such as an accelerator or an incubator, or a government entity. So lots of reasons, I probably have missed some here, but lots of good reasons to take this class. So why this class now? That sort of summarizes where we're all at. Although not everyone is lucky enough to have a dog sitting by them. So we're all working at home, and when I was sitting at home, and I've been there for 5 months now, thinking about what could I do to continue the entrepreneurship mission, I thought, gee, everyone else is at home too. I think there's going to be much more openness to doing an online course, and that means that it could be global. And so I came up with this idea, and now you see there's a real class that's about to happen. We have signups from 23 different countries. And this is the breakdown of the pre-registrations. So it's 69% North America, and then pretty good groups from Europe, 12%. East Asia is, I think, 6%. We have India, which is 7%, rounded up, and then other parts of the world. So we're delighted to have interest from places that we think we could really be helpful by showing you the Silicon Valley model of doing entrepreneurship. So I wanted to know where people come from, and no surprise, there are a lot of them from academia, that's 21%. We have a lot of CEOs and founders, so a third of the class is a CEO or founder. Sometimes they actually said, we're in academia, but we're CEOs because we're starting companies. So they're in the CEO category. And then we have a good group of students and postdocs, and then some accelerator people, government organizations, and so on, tech transfer offices, and entrepreneurial organizations, that's 7%. So, and investors, not to forget, that's 6%. So a really good mix of affiliation types. By degree, people have signed up, there are 12% with MBAs and 19% who have some other kind of master's. We have a good group of MDs, 17%, PhDs, 30%, and some others with bachelor's and law degrees and so on. So again, a nice mix. And then the motivations for taking the class. So it's pretty much what I listed on the other slide, except there's some interest in market access in the US. So to understand our mindset as is helpful there. Learning how to do a business plan, how to validate your idea, which is the key part of the business plan. If your idea isn't something that people really want, there isn't a business. And then networking, learning how investors think, and networking with investors. So those are all really valid motivations for taking the class. So now let's speak about the class itself. The objectives of this course are to teach you the characteristics of a high impact, scalable life science healthcare startup. And I want to focus on that for a minute. You know, there are many startups where people are just happy to do something fairly small, manageable. It's what we would call a lifestyle company, not to drive themselves crazy by working 90 hours a week and doing something that brings them joy. And that's perfectly fine. Our focus here in Silicon Valley is how to create a startup that is scalable. In other words, it can get big and has high impact, like maybe change human healthcare in some way, maybe cure cancer, maybe stop COVID. You know, all the things that are the really big issues in the life science healthcare world. And because we're in this world, we do have the potential to create a startup that can change the way things progress. So it's pretty exciting. Also in the course, we're going to teach you the elements of a business plan. And business plans are no longer 30-page documents that someone writes and ships around by email. A business plan is just a slide set, basically hitting all the key issues that you need to start a company. We're going to teach you what those elements are. And then how to figure out whether an idea is a business opportunity. Again, very critical, because without that, you really don't want to waste your time. And then what investors look for, because since we're in the life science world, it's not like we can sit in a dorm room and write an app and it becomes Facebook and we don't need anyone else's money. We have a different kind of business. So the format is an hour lecture per week over a 10-week period, which is September 30 to December 9. Where, if you're wondering why that's 11 weeks, it's because Thanksgiving is there and we're taking that week off. It's a US holiday. We're recording all the lectures so that you don't have to attend class, but we've designed the times so that 50% of the class will be live in your region. So in Asia and in Europe, 50% of the classes will be live because of the time they're delivered. And in the US, it'll be 100% because we're on close time zones. We've designed in some peer forums, which are both by region and by sector, and I'll speak more about that on a later slide. But they're a very important way in which you can interact with people in the class and with mentors. Mentors are dropping into those peer forums and will help facilitate them. And then we will have a reading list that you can refer to and use. So what are we going to teach you? Well, we're starting off with opportunity assessment and customer discovery. So this is let's find out, how do you determine if your idea could be a business? And the way that that's done is something called customer discovery. If any of you are familiar with Lean Launchpad or the NSF NIH I-Corps, that is the basis for both of those programs. And it's something that was popularized by a man named Steve Blank, who's here in the Valley and has written a lot about it. The second lecture will be about business models, which is how do you make money? Again, if you're doing a for-profit company, if you can't figure that out, you probably don't have a company. So again, a very important concept and lecture. There'll be one on team building, and that's going to be delivered by a woman who does this in a number of different companies. And she's great at explaining, how do you find a team? What do you look for? How do you build it? If you're a founder, how do you allocate founder shares? And what do you do if someone doesn't work out? And how do you interview? So a lot of great knowledge there. And then we have intellectual property, which for our life science healthcare ventures, absolutely key, a key holder of value. And we've got a top IP attorney who is a way of making this very complicated topic easy enough to understand and not bore you. So really a great lecture. And keep in mind, I've seen all these people multiple times and they're really superstars in my other class. I have an expert for clinical trials and regulatory pathways. She will talk about FDA, but also talk about other other regulatory agencies. But FDA is a model for many around the world. So understanding how that works and what the pathway is important. Reimbursement. So in our healthcare system, which is not based on just on government, somebody has to pay, and it's never the patient, it's never the physician, it's someone else. It's usually insurance. And for anyone who's interested in understanding the US system, this is an important concept. So even if you are not marketing here yet, but will be someday, you need to understand how we do this. And I've got the head of a health system who's going to speak about it, health insurer. For investment, I have both an angel investor and a venture capitalist coming to speak. They're very different in the way they approach investments in many ways. Their economics are different, their structure is different. Angels are generally the type of person that comes in early. Venture capital likes to come in later on when there's already some proof of concept. And you'll hear directly from these people about how they approach investing, what's important to them. And then for, certainly for therapeutics and sometimes for diagnostics, partnering with a pharmaceutical company is really important. And that's a way to find out, it's a source of funding and expertise that you're not gonna have in a little startup. So to tap into a pharma through a partnership is really valuable for a life science company. And I've got an executive, a vice president from J&J, who's going to be speaking about partnering, what they look for and how it all works. And then a case study by an entrepreneur who came out of my program, was a postdoc and was able to start a company and raise money. And he's going to talk about how that all happened and what the challenges were in making that transition out of academia into being an executive of a startup. So that's what we're going to cover in the 10 weeks that we're together. The lecturers I'm bringing in, probably got a taste of that from the prior slide. I've got venture capitalists, a couple of them, one is a corporate venture capitalist, another is not. An angel investor, a startup founder, serial entrepreneurs. So, we have a way of doing it more than once. Maybe we fail the first time, or maybe we win the first time, but it gets in your blood and people go and do it again. An intellectual property attorney, pharmaceutical executives, a regulatory consultant, and a health insurance executive. So lots of great people to deliver this information. So the peer forums, let me talk to you about that. There are two types of peer forums. There are regional and by sector. So regional is pretty clear, US, Asia, Europe. You are able to go to any of these forums, so there are no restrictions. You can hop into the European forum and hear what they're talking about, and then go back to your local forum in Asia or wherever. So that's one cut. The second cut is by sector. So we divide the life science healthcare world into therapeutics, diagnostics, medical devices, and digital health. And digital health is health tech, it's sometimes called that. So each of these have very different dynamics, and people in these particular fields have different interests. So we thought it would be good to create a forum to allow everybody to share ideas. And we did our best to find a time that wasn't terrible for anybody. So I'm not sure how we did. I think we did pretty well. But you can sit in as many of these as you want, and hopefully you'll meet people from other geographies. In total, there are going to be 16 peer forums. We're alternating weeks so that we do the regional forums one week and the sector forums the second week. They will either occur directly after class or the next day, depending on the time. So when we have a 5 o'clock class in Pacific time zone, there will be an opportunity to meet after that. But then so for many people in many regions, we have scheduled it for the next day. Mentors will drop in. We have 1 to 2 mentors in every one of these peer forums, and their job is to facilitate the discussion. It is an opportunity to interact with them. It is your major opportunity to interact with them, and it's a great chance to expand your knowledge base and your connections and learn from these people. It's also a chance to interact with your classmates and to make acquaintances with people who have entrepreneurial interests from around the world. And you can discuss the class material. So we'll probably start with picking up on whatever the lecture was, but there are also, it's completely open. So anybody can bring up a topic, talk about their project, ask a question, get some ideas or resources. These are really meant for you. The profiles of the mentors who have signed up for these are pretty varied. We have serial entrepreneurs, investors, and there's a chief operating officer from a company, pharmaceutical business development, that's the partnering kind of person, a chief business officer, that's also partnering business development, someone who knows international market entry, a couple of people who know product design, some chief scientific officers who are in a commercial context, a board director, an investor, someone who's into device development and sales operations. So really a broad group of mentors who can be very helpful in whatever topic you want to bring up. Class communications will be by Slack. I don't know how many of you know Slack. We will make it available to you. It's a place you can chat with classmates. There will be different channels set up so that you can have group discussions and go into a group that interests you, and people can send each other private messages to share information. So again, a great way to interact. There will be a reading list provided. There's a totally optional textbook, but it's one that my classes, my Startup 101 class, has found very useful, called New Venture Creation: An Innovator's Guide to Entrepreneurship. It is, has a lot of good knowledge in one place. I believe you can rent it, just buy it. It's just there as a resource if you want it. But the weekly readings will all be tied to the week's lecture topic, and they're available online. So all you have to do is click and you'll get there. So a bunch of people have asked us some questions, and when we sent out the questionnaire about peer forums, and I wanted to just summarize those here. This is an online lecture series, and I keep having to repeat this because people keep thinking maybe there's a way to be on a team. And you're free to do that in Slack, but this is not a project-focused or a team-based kind of class. This is a lecture series, and you have the ability to make connections through the peer forums and through Slack and do whatever you want with those connections, but we are not doing teams or projects. The class is 100% virtual. We still are in COVID land, and that means there's no opportunity to meet. We at UCSF have been told to stay off campus. This is if you're not doing clinical care or scientific research. The rest of us aren't even allowed to go to campus until next year. So we are not going to be doing anything in person. This is all online. The lectures are all going to be recorded, and that gives you an opportunity to watch it whenever it's convenient for you, or to go back to a lecture that you're not sure you caught everything that was said, but you have the ability to watch a lecture anytime. And several people asked, how much time is this going to take? What should I put in my schedule? Is this going to take a lot of time? And the answer is, it doesn't have to. It can take no time at all. You could choose just to go to a few lectures and not do anything else. You could choose to do everything, all the lectures and a lot of peer forums, and read everything, and then it'll take time. So it's completely up to you. You're all adults. Just decide what is serving your needs the best and do that. Another question we got was, can you take the class in the spring? Well, there isn't a class in the spring. This is the only class we have scheduled. So this is the only opportunity you have to take the class. So if it interests you, I encourage you to sign up for it now. And a couple of people have requested an alumni network afterwards, and that is absolutely possible. If there is interest during the class, we're happy to set that up and make people available to each other afterwards. So those are the questions we've gotten in the past. I'm really anxious to get to your questions now. So onward.
I'm Chris Haskell, Vice President and Head of Bayer's Open Innovation Center in San Francisco. Our site in San Francisco is the California branch of Bayer's Global Innovation Network that interacts with emerging innovation, including startup companies. I've been working with UCSF Entrepreneurship Center since 2015 and as a mentor for the class since 2017. Stephanie Marrus' class setup and instruction are the highest quality, and you can really see the impact it has on the groups that go through this program. And this quality comes not just from Stephanie's experience of running the course, but also draws from the special sauce we have in our region with the Silicon Valley, as well as the birthplace of biotech.
Great, there are a couple more people speaking. Sorry, I didn't have a chance to introduce them. But let me introduce Marc Chevalier, who's Startup Program Manager at Institut Pasteur in Paris.
I am Marc Chevalier, Startup Program Manager at the Institut Pasteur in Paris, France. My main mission is to bring scientific projects developed at the Institut Pasteur to the creation of startups. My activities are also dedicated to bring more insights about entrepreneurship to scientists, especially in the context of global economy. The Institut Pasteur is proud to be partner of this first global online course, Entrepreneurship for Life Science Healthcare Startups, led by Stephanie Marrus, Managing Director of the Entrepreneurship Center at the University of California, San Francisco. This course will teach how companies are created from a Silicon Valley perspective. We, Europeans, can learn from the world's most prolific startup culture. Please join us. Class starts on September 30.
Right, that's Marc, who's their partners. And one more from—
I am Marc Chevalier, Startup Program Manager at the Institut.
Okay, I've got to get to the next slide. Next slide. Why is this there? Okay, this is a mentor.
Hello, my name is Patricia Sinatra, and I'm a business development and corporate strategy professional located in the Bay Area. I am also a mentor with the UCSF Startup 101 and CSLI FAST programs, which I participated in the past 3 years. I strongly recommend that you consider taking this course. There are very few opportunities that are available to entrepreneurs so they can fully understand the profile of what it takes to take a drug or a technology to market. The course provides excellent value for the money and will give you an exposure to intellectual property, licensing, how to raise money, and most importantly, understanding the market fit for your technology.
Great. So Pat is one of—
Hello, my name is—
Why do I keep— Pat is one of the mentors who signed up to be in the peer forum. So you have a chance to meet her if you would like to. So class times and dates. We are starting on September 30, which is a month from now. And the first lecture, it will be at 5 p.m. that day. It's a really critical topic, opportunity assessment and customer discovery. We've talked about that. We're moving the times around so that this is to allow each region to be able to view these real time. So that's why you'll see some classes are at 5 p.m. and some are at 9 a.m. And you can do the translation to your time zone. Peer forum time. So again, we've tried to be sensitive to the time zone issues. The regional peer forums will be in the US on Wednesdays at 6 p.m., in Asia on Thursdays at 6 p.m., and in Europe on Thursdays at 10 a.m. These are all Pacific times. And then the sector peer forums will be on Thursdays at 9 a.m. And we will make the schedule available. Fees. Actually, we're going to open Eventbrite tomorrow so that you're able to pay starting now. and the fees are non-refundable. If you signed up before July 15th, your fee is $750, and if you signed up July 15 going forward, the fee is $995. If you are, I doubt in this group there is anybody from bio or California Life Sciences, but there are codes for them. So this is us. I didn't get a chance to introduce Jerry Jung, who is, can you wave, Jerry? Okay, good. Who is our TA. He's a postdoc at UCSF and also was very involved with entrepreneurship at another University of California campus. So we're very pleased to have him on the team. And I'm course director, and at the top is the website, which leads you to the syllabus, to other information about the course and so on.